Great. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Carter Feltham. Carter is with MTRI, and the presentation title is Nesting Success of Nova Scotian Blandings Turtle in the Face of Rising Temperatures. So Carter, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Get my presentation going here. All right, is that visible?
Yep.
Yes.
We can see all your notes too, Carter.
Well, that's awkward. We'll just share that one.
Yeah, that looks better.
There we go. Okay, perfect. So, hi everyone. My name is Carter Feltham, and I will be talking about part of my master's thesis, which involved an analysis on the effects of temperature on nest success. I did this analysis on the Blandings turtle, and I'll cover a quick bit about the methods and the results and some conclusions that came from this analysis. So the Blandings turtle is an endangered species, and within Nova Scotia, there are 4 known subpopulations. Because of their life history traits, they heavily rely on annual adult survivorship for the population to persist. In general, reptiles depend on temperature to regulate their body temperature. However, there are several species that are considered to have temperature-dependent sex determination, or TSD. TSD means that the sex of the individual is determined by the temperature that they incubate at. This varies between species, and with Blandings turtles, generally males are produced at lower temperatures and females are produced at higher temperatures. This data was collected by dedicated volunteers and staff throughout the province. Several variables were recorded, such as the individual Blandings turtle nesting, the date, the location, air temperature, clutch size, and several others. To model and visualize the data, RStudio is used to clean and manipulate the data. A few questions I had going into this analysis are as follows, and I'll address them individually in the next few slides. The analysis was conducted using RStudio, and for the analysis, I included data from 1994 to 2019. This in total included 790 nests and 7,868 eggs. I've also included a little breakdown of how many eggs per year. The reason I chose 1994 to 2019 is because there was enough nests in those years to have some variety for the model I created. So for the next few slides, I talk about hatching success and emergence rates. For hatching success, that's just the number of eggs that hatched. The emergence are all the individuals that hatched and then emerged from their subsequent nest as well. So hatching success varied quite widely annually, with an average of about 59%. This is similar to emergence rates that were found in Illinois between 2005 and 2007. Their average was a little higher at about 65%. And in Massachusetts, the average was about 55% between 2005 and 2007. Except the average, however, current emergence rates and hatch rates were not available for comparison. So I checked on a different species that's also at their northern limits, the painted turtles, which had a reported success rate of about 92%, which is a lot higher. So relatively, the nesting success of Blandings turtles in Nova Scotia is quite a bit lower compared to the rest of the range. My first thought was that emergence rates and hatching success would both improve over time. However, by this graph, you can see that the number of individuals that don't emerge from the nest is pretty steadily around 10%, although there is a slight downward trend. So this was likely attributed to something other than temperature, because we can see that the hatching success is trending upward and the number of failed eggs is decreasing over time. Now, the main question of my thesis was to determine if air temperature could be used as a proxy to predict hatching success in place of nest temperature, which I determined that yes, it was. The model I created was good enough to predict data within logical bounds. The R-square value tells us that the fixed effect mean temperature explained about 10% of the variation in the data, and the random variables, nest ID, rain, turtle ID, year, and clutch size, explain an additional 73% of variation in the data, which basically means that variables included gave the model enough information to correctly predict hatching success most of the time. Using air temperature is a lot cheaper, a lot more efficient way to predict nest success, less invasive, and we can use this to predict future hatch success rates, which is incredibly important when creating management plans in the face of climate change. Here is one of several models I created. This one focuses on the middle third of the incubation period, which was considered the most temperature sensitive part of the development. There was a consistent upward trend in all models I created with nest success and temperature. So I constructed a little curve here to help visualize the hatching success of turtles. The data I used in the model I constructed only had a small temperature range, with most of the data occurring between 4 degrees. This represents this section of the curve, with the temperature range not often reaching into the optimal ranges, so nesting success is still pretty low in Nova Scotia. So as the temperature rises, the nest success of turtles would likely increase, and more females would start being produced. For a short time, this will be beneficial. We'll have higher success of eggs, which means more turtles hatching and more females lay eggs in the future. However, once the temperature starts entering this upper range, hatching success will decrease, or likely decrease, and the increasing female bias hatchlings can lead to more issues like the lack of males to mate with. Climate change is a threat that's often labeled with unknown effects or priority, as it can be hard to sum up the mass effect it could have on even a single species. Reptiles in particular can be directly affected by temperature changes as it affects the hatching success, but also indirectly through sex ratios. Many species of reptiles have TSD. This means that as the temperature rises, sex ratios and blandings will become increasingly female biased. The more we can prepare now, the better off we will be when combating the effects. Using data and hatch success from populations further south could provide insight for understanding the species' ability to combat climate change on its own, as well as give us data needed to start planning our management plans. This project would not have been possible without hundreds of volunteers and staff over 2 decades collecting data, our funders, or my supervisors, Dr. Easy, Dr. Avery, or Dr. Mockford. Thank you.
Thank you, Carter, and congratulations on your recent defense, as well as the presentation there this morning for us.